we have Dr. Dennis Boate with us in the studio. Doc, first things first, I mean, we were discussing this morning between myself and the girls about running stomach and diarrhea, if there was a difference. Now, there were suggestions that came up, such as texture, frequency, and other variables. But let me ask you, in your professional capacity, is there any difference between diarrhea and running stomach?
Well, basically, I wouldn't say there's much of a difference. I mean, I think it's just a matter of semantics. I mean,
so just a different name?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, so in the medical parlance, there's nothing like
running stomach. Okay.
But maybe the one out there feels that my bowel motions are very frequent. It's like every now and then I have to go. So it's like my stomach is running.
Yeah.
So that's
okay. So it's just a colloquialism. Just okay. All right. So there is no difference between diarrhea and running stomach. They're all one and the same.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Now, what's the difference between diarrhea and food poisoning?
Difference between diarrhea and food poisoning. Diarrhea could be caused by, we basically are establishing the fact that diarrhea is frequent movement of the bowel, like which is in the watery form or liquid form, more than 3 times in a day.
Okay.
And that could last probably some days up to about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Diarrhea could be caused by anything. It could be caused by so many things. It could be caused by, let's say, certain bacteria, certain viruses, and occasionally some kind of parasites. When it comes to food poisoning, it is not necessarily the person having the same symptoms like diarrhea in terms of only passing stools, but they having other symptoms as well, like stomach cramps, and sometimes they also have a fever.
Okay.
And usually the history behind the food poisoning is that the person actually ate something and then later on found out that he was having abdominal cramps and then some diarrhea, which may also come with vomiting. Or the person probably went to a party and then there was a point source where they ate some maybe salads or something.
So it's safe to say that diarrhea would be a result of food poisoning rather than...
Yes, with food poisoning there could be diarrhea as well.
Right.
But there can be diarrhea that is not as a result of having eaten food that may be infected with certain diarrhea. And again, with when it comes to food poisoning, the kind of bacteria involved are a bit different. Like bacteria like Campylobacter are commoner in food poisoning, unlike common diarrhea like cholera, etc.
Okay. Now, when it comes to diarrhea, obviously it causes... Well, how serious is diarrhea? Because we heard in the video that there are some statistics stating that 1,500 children a year die of diarrhea.
Diarrhea is very serious, and I think it's very, very common. I don't know if what else could be more commoner. In terms of statistics, for example, the world population is about 7 billion or so.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that about 5 billion people in the world every year would have some episodes of diarrhea.
Of some form. Yeah.
So virtually about 70% of the world goes through some episode of diarrhea a year. It tells you that we can have the mild, moderate, and then severe. So it's something that takes people a lot of time to the hospital. And when it gets worse, like the recent episode that we had with a lot of the cases being cholera, it can get very, very bad.
Okay.
Now, if you take children under 5, for example, you have about the number of them who die under 5. Diarrhea is the second most commonest cause of death in children under 5, second to pneumonia or maybe respiratory diseases.
Right.
So across the world, malaria may even come to number 3 or number 4.
Okay, so
it's in Africa that we may be thinking of malaria as a number 1 killer, but on a global scale, diarrhea disease is number 2 because it can cause extreme dehydration in the kids. Kidneys can shut down, the child could easily pass away. Okay,
now you brought it up, let's talk about it. Dehydration. Obviously, this is a result of the diarrhea and you expelling most of the fluids from your body. Tell us a little bit about dehydration. What are the results of dehydration?
Yeah, dehydration, when our whole body, no matter how muscular you are made up of about 60 to 70% water. So your whole body integrity is held by water.
Right.
So if you are expelling a lot of water out of your system, it means that what holds you firm is getting out.
Right.
And therefore you increasingly become weaker or progressively become weaker, and even get to a point where you can get confused and you may collapse.
Right.
And then if intervention is not done quickly, you may lose your life.
Okay.
And dehydration can come as a result of maybe you have bacterial infection in your intestine, and also, for example, somebody may have something called osmotic diarrhea. You may take something that has high concentration of maybe sugar into your intestine, and what it does is that naturally, even though that is not an infection, the high concentration of the sugar is going to cause movement of water from the other parts of your tissues into the intestine just to flush it out.
Okay.
And if this should go on for some time, you are going to have a diarrhea, and it could lead to dehydration. Or you take a very high concentration of something like caffeine, right? If you take high concentration of caffeine, you realize that you run a bit. So in times when you are having diarrhea and you are feeling weak, that is not the time to say that, okay, I'm going to take energy drink, I'm going to take Lucozade,
right? Because
thinking that it will make me feel better, make me feel stronger. In any case, like the Lucozade or that energy drink contains a lot of glucose, a lot of sugar,
caffeine,
which itself can make the diarrhea worse.
Even worse.
It contains a lot of caffeine that can itself make the diarrhea worse, because it's going to pull water from your tissues in there. And I'm bringing this up because in the past episodes that we had, the epidemic of cholera that broke out, we lost one young student who was a medical student because she was at home drinking Lucozade because
instead of water.
Yeah, because I'm feeling weak. Instead of drinking water, the content of the Lucozade is just for you energy when you are exercising.
Right.
But to think that it's going to replace the fluids that you are losing or the electrolyte that you are losing, no.
Okay.
Now, when you are having dehydration, when you're having diarrhea, what you are losing is that you are losing certain ions like sodium, chloride, potassium. These are essential things that your body, your nerves, everything needs to function well.
Okay.
So as long as you are pouring it out, then what happens is that your nerves could be having problems, your state of mind, you could get confused and you collapse. So the whole idea of you having diarrhea and going to drink something is better to drink water. If for nothing at all, you don't have anything at all, if you have some sugar and a little sugar and then some salt, put them together, because you're losing sodium, you're losing chlorine, you're losing potassium. So salt is sodium chloride. So you pour it into your water and drink it. At least it replaces
some of the stuff that you've lost.
The kind of thing you're losing.
I know when it comes to dehydration, like you said, you can faint, you can lose consciousness, you become confused. I know that, for instance, your extremities, your fingertips start to tingle. And you may feel some form of numbness around the lips and other extremities. Is that true?
Yes, that's very true. When you are heavily dehydrated, what happens is that as your tissues lose water to your bowel, you realize that your eyes begin to sink in, or they sink in. So have sunken eyes, like the person's eye would is punched back into the hole.
Right.
Your skin would stand pinched if you should hold your skin and pull it.
Right, no elasticity.
No elasticity, stands a pinch, because the integrity of your skin is also held by water.
Right.
In the same way, you realize that if you have your hands or your feet, it gets cramped, like you have a shirt that is crumpled.
Yeah.
So everything sticks on.
Right.
And the same thing that at the end of your extremities, you feel that kind of numbness. And when it gets extreme, then the body goes into what we call like twitches or tetany. So you start, the whole body begins
almost like a convulsion.
Yeah, especially we had a lot of this during the episodes of cholera.
Right.
You get to a point when it's getting so bad, you said the person starts screaming in pain.
Wow.
And the person just goes in involuntary movement of the body. So you have to really hurry up and push the fluids into the person.
Okay.
Once you get that done, the person becomes better.
Okay. Now we talked about just now pushing the fluids back in the person. Treatment for dehydration. What do we do?
In the treatment, when you start having diarrhea, it is important that you sometimes it will abate by itself, and give yourself maybe observe for a day. If it's just 3 times loose stools, watery stools, it may abate by itself. But if you realize that you are passing so many times, home remedies, you may want to think of getting something that is fluid. Water is there. You can start with water if there's nothing at all. You might want to have something like coconut water as well, if you can get hold of it, and drink as much as you can. Again, in the absence of anything, you can just start with a certain combination of salt and water.
Right.
If you take 1 teaspoon of salt, you can add 3 tablespoons of sugar.
Okay.
And it's important that you don't overdo it, because if you took too much sugar, you are going to worsen your situation. So just 1 teaspoon of salt, and then 3 tablespoons of sugar. You put it in 1 liter of water, be it in your
flask,
or your bottle, and just keep and then keep drinking. You keep drinking along, even if you should vomit. Just give yourself 5 more minutes or 10 minutes keep drinking little by little. And whilst that goes on, if you have zinc tablets, now the recommendation is that you should add zinc tablets to it. If you have some at home, and I would recommend that in this area that we are having a lot of diarrheal diseases going on, if you have any first aid pack at home, just make sure they have some ORS in there, and also with zinc tablets as well. So you can take some of your zinc tablets and then keep observing yourself. But if anybody close to you tells you your eyes are getting sunken, or you realize that you are getting progressively weaker, that means that your rehydration is not enough to compensate for what the body is losing. So there and then you need to get closer to the hospital where intravenous fluids are going to be giving you, and the intravenous fluids are actually tailored according to what your body is losing. So you are having what you lose through vomiting has a certain chemical composition. What you lose through diarrhea stools also has a chemical composition. So it's been well studied in certain ratios, and therefore the 541 or the Ringer's lactate that is going to be used on you has been well calculated, and that is the best solution that you would need to be put on you to cause the body to come to
it's been advertised, by the National Health Service about the ORS and zinc, and also we naturally, as a cultural, we tend to self-medicate. So, in regards to this, how would we use an ORS package?
Well,
I know that there's instructions on the back, but human beings, sometimes we just don't read it.
Yeah. So with the ORS, usually you are not supposed to use it. Keep it overnight. If you should use it, you have it in your bottle or your flask. Make sure that you use it during the day. If it's 3 bottles of or 3 sachets of ORS you are going to use in a day, just use them during the day.
Make sure it's all
but
used
don't
within that 24
keep it
hours.
overnight, over 24 hours. Then you have to discard it and then redo it again. If possible, if the water you are going to put your ORS in is even boiled a bit, because getting diarrheal diseases basically has to do with what you put inside, either from your fingers or from the food you are eating that gets into your mouth. Whichever way it is, be it by bacteria, be it by some high sugar content, something you are eating. Everything about gastroenteritis or everything about diarrhea has to do with something that enters your mouth. You can even take certain drugs and that can induce diarrhea. So all these things are there, something that goes inside of you. So make sure that your food is hot, your water is well boiled. Put in 1 sachet of ORS at least in 1 liter, and keep drinking, but don't store it overnight. I think I'm going to use it again.
Can anyone use ORS?
Anyone can use ORS, except of course you have used it before and you had a reaction to it. Like any drug, they say that unless of course you have an allergy or you have a drug reaction to that particular thing. But otherwise it's an ideal fluid that everybody can use, be it from children to adults to old age people. That is what is recommended. Everybody can use it.
For instance, if let's just say hypothetically you're not actually experiencing diarrhea, but you have the other symptoms that may come along with it, weakness, maybe your skin is feeling a bit tight or you're feeling a joint ache, is ORS a solution? Can you drink ORS to try and relieve those symptoms?
Well, if you are not having diarrhea, chances are that you are not losing electrolytes that much. If you are not vomiting, you are not losing electrolytes that much. But if you are going to do some sports and you have sweated a lot and you think that you are feeling dehydrated, well, that's because you can go for your the formulated ones that you can want to energize yourself. But again, in that case, you can still drink ORS. It doesn't spoil anything at all. You can still take ORS, but that is more recommended when you are having episodes where you are losing a lot of fluid through bowel motion or through vomiting.
When we have visitors come to our country, or even some of us ourselves come along and they acclimatize and all of a sudden they get bouts of diarrhea, some people advise taking capsules such as Imodium or things like to stop the diarrhea. Is that in any way, shape or form detrimental to the person?
Yes.
Because you're kind of like blocking the natural flow of things.
Exactly. When you have diarrhea, in the early stages of diarrhea, it is important to hold on a bit if it's not that frequent.
Diarrhea, as in let it go.
Diarrhea can, within a day or two, 24 to 48 hours, can subside or can abate by itself. There is no rush if it's not too frequent. Now, it's important because we're having, especially when it's caused by bacteria, you're having the intestine also want to shed off some of the bacteria. So somebody allow it to go.
Okay.
If it's bothering you, people who want to use this Imodium or loperamide, as we call it, it is not really recommended when you are having chronic diarrhea.
Okay.
If you're having chronic diarrhea for weeks, for months, it is likely something else could be responsible.
Right.
You have chronic diarrhea, it could be probably you have irritable bowel syndrome, you have what we call ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. These things are chronic conditions that you could be suffering from. Or to tell you, strangely enough, there are some people who have HIV infection, and when they present to hospital for the first time with their weight loss that they talk about, they will tell you that, oh, I've been having, like, it's not like it's bad, but for about 3 months now, every day I go to the toilet like 5 times. I go to visit the loo like 5 times. That is persistent gastroenteritis or persistent diarrhea. That means that the person's immune system is not able to fight. Because you have diarrhea, your immune system is innately activated to try and work. The acute one, you take your ORS, and these things are supposed to subside within a few days. If it still doesn't, and it's still persisting for weeks and months, then it's likely there may be a secondary cause to that. If it's not any like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, or celiac diseases, then probably sometimes it's a immunosuppression, which is HIV, and it's also there. So the use of loperamide or Imodium is not the panacea to the problem.
Okay.
Occasionally, when somebody thinks that it's bothering him, Charlie, I need to go somewhere, let me just hold
it for the meantime.
And then, but then again, what happens with Imodium is that you may overuse it, and after that gives you what we call rebound constipation.
Right.
You use it and it stops. Then at the end of the day, you have rebound. You get constipated for days and it's not opening up.
Right.
So the
causing another issue altogether.
That's right. So what was supposed to have come out would then be staying in there, and you will start feeling bloated.
Right. Okay. What are some of the causes of diarrhea? I mean, can it lead to other ailments?
Yes. Causes of diarrhea, as I say, is one, our lifestyle, our environment, which is not, if it's not too clean, directly affects what we put into our mouth.
Right.
I mean, we try to be as cautious as possible, trying to wash our hands there and then. But if the environment itself and the things you see around are not that hygienic, chances are that you can't be careful enough. You can try to be careful, you can't be careful enough.
Right.
So you end up actually putting into your system orally bacteria or viruses that you may have gotten from some food that you are eating that is contaminated with fecal matter.
Right.
That contains that. The organisms are so many, and the commonest that we have seen this recently is that of Vibrio cholera.
Right.
That comes with profuse diarrhea.
Yep.
That we all know now. But I dare say that with this epidemic that we had, I dare say that not all of it was cholera, as in the bacteria cholera.
Okay.
Because we've always had gastroenteritis or diarrhea cases coming to the hospital when it wasn't like cholera.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are caused by other organisms. E. coli is there, noroviruses, rotaviruses, they're all there.
They're all being banded under the cholera umbrella.
So but this time, because it was just coming, everybody, once you come, cholera until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
So we just manage you. And interestingly, the modes of management of these things are basically the same.
Right.
Try to rehydrate the person, get the person out of getting into what we call a hypovolemic shock. And the person can go into shock because all the volume just go, and the person can go into acute kidney failure, and the kidney can just shut down.
And that's when they pass.
And it's dangerous. So diarrhea can lead to so many things.
Okay. Dr. Boate, I want to say thank you so much for coming in this morning once again.